In southwestern Oregon, fire was a key component to this landscape. It shaped the ecosystem with both lightning, extensive burning by tribal people. We had an open mosaic landscape. Now we've learned the removal of that fire has created a lot of ecological problems. Many trees per acre that historically weren't there. Stress-related mortality, insects and disease. We really are in a crisis here in southwestern Oregon. We're seeing fires like we haven't seen before. 500,000 to 1 million acre fires.
241,000 acres. Firefighters are even being forced to retreat from the battle.
We have more homes in the wilderness-urban interface, I think, than in these two counties in southwest Oregon than anywhere in the western United States. And so around here, the fire danger, forest management has become probably the most important resource concern. You know, it's not just private land. We have a mixed checkerboard ownership of public and private, and fire doesn't stop at boundaries.
So we have to come in an ecological way and address that problem. In order to do that, we're going to need all hands on deck. We're going to need a big collaborative team of partners with different overlapping skills and expertise. But the private land piece is going to be a key part to that ecosystem resilience work within the context of that larger, all lands, 4.6 million acre watershed.
So we are in Central Oregon, 2 miles from Smith Rock, a huge volcanic lava flow area. We have a lot of lava beds throughout our own property. Our main business here is grass-fed beef. We also raise heritage hogs and grass-fed lamb. I attend the Bend Farmers Market every Wednesday in downtown Bend, and I bring our meat, which includes our beef, our pork, our lamb. I bring our honey and then eggs. It's actually my favorite day of the week, the market is. I love talking to people about what we do. I really believe in starting with good quality soil to raise good quality forage, to raise good quality animals, in turn, healthy humans. You know, farming the high desert is a little bit of an oxymoron, but here we are. It's just extremely dry.
Based on the geology being so incredibly porous, we lose about 50% of the irrigation water in transmission. So essentially we have to divert twice as much water from the river as what the farm actually needs to meet its needs. And that, of course, is exacerbating the already over-appropriated system. Basically, more water rights were given out than there actually exists water in the river during key times of the year, like, say, the summer months. And it's a real problem if you're a fish and you're trying to exist in a river with no water.
We had about 90 acres of flood irrigation. So we had an open ditch where, you know, you've got evaporation, and the fluctuation of pressure is just very difficult to work with. We could never turn the water off, and if we had to, everything started to turn brown.
And we can't make it rain more, so we know that we have to do more with less.
We're located here in southeastern Oregon. It's part of the Great Basin area. A lot of desert country that is rock, sagebrush, down to flood irrigated meadows. A lot of this country is not suitable for farming or anything like that. Some of the challenges that come with ranching in this area, they range from anything between droughts, a lot of invasive species, soil erosion, and all of that. One of the larger issues we have here is juniper encroachment. If you look back, there's photographs showing certain hillsides that were nothing but native feed, some brush, and you can go look at that same landscape today and it will be scattered with juniper, which of course then turns everything below that into pretty much barren soil. So as that juniper moves in, it's taking all of your ground moisture away. When you see juniper moving in, you quickly realize that it's going to choke out everything else. It doesn't really feel like encroachment anymore. It's already encroached. We're past that point. It's pretty overwhelming.
You know, NRCS has developed what they call the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, and it's exactly what it sounds like. These are allowing for much bigger landscape level projects that are partner-led.
And that forward-thinking program has enabled us to work with many different landowners as part of a larger initiative to have a larger conservation benefit.
It just opens up larger swaths of funding in a more focused way.
We have an opportunity to leverage those funds, that partnership and actually be stronger together. So with our projects in Southern Oregon, we've been able to do that with federal agencies, state agencies, tribes, non-government organizations, and landowners.
It's incredibly expensive work, and most landowners don't know where to start. So we come up with basically an action plan to do the fuels reduction that meets landowner objective and meets the resource concerns.
We have to come in and do a lot of the density management work. Thinning in a mosaic, they have to essentially be like botanists with chainsaws. So we're not just clearing brush and clearing trees, but we're doing that in an ecological way with a biodiversity conservation lens, also thinking about habitat while we greatly reduce fuel hazards.
I started out on my forest stewardship journey with some fuels reduction grants through the Oregon Department of Forestry. Once you have a forest management plan in place, I could go to NRCS and say, hey, here's our plan, and they can fund it. So I was really eager to jump into that and see if we could create some habitat, some mixed canopy habitat. And already I see just a tremendous flowering, literally, of flowers and whatnot, but also a lot more types of wildlife coming through.
So we've taken a really proactive approach at Lomacatsi since our inception, and working closely with tribes and tribal communities, tribal organizations, to integrate tribal workforce and tribal perspectives into ecosystem resilience work.
Back in the day, we used fire as a land management tool, and our ways, traditional ecological knowledge, are being returned to the land now because we see that what we've done hasn't worked. And we have a tribal workforce on the ground, and they are cutting and piling, putting fire on the ground. We're able to set the stage for good fire to get back on the land. And it's very good for the people and the land.
So through these initiatives, we can build those relationships as well between owners and indigenous community members. And that's been a big part of the work we've done on this initiative over the years, working in partnership with NRCS and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
One of the reasons we work in Southern Oregon and in the Rogue specifically is there's a few threatened and endangered species in the lands that we're working on. And so it's a win for conservation. It's a win for the agency and the partnership that we're working together. But most of all, it's a win for the landowners that are allowing us to come onto their land and do the habitat restoration work.
Everybody benefits from clean water, less smoke, less fire, better habitat. And so that's how we're trying to formulate what we do.
So a lot of the projects that I work on, and specifically that I work on with NRCS, are geared towards irrigation modernization.
When we're able to pipe some of these open ditches and open canals, then we're reducing that evaporative loss and especially the seepage loss.
And that's great, and it saves a ton of water, but we still need to get the water to the farmers. So essentially, we're using the PL 566 funding to do the large-scale main canal piping, and then the Regional Conservation Partnership Program to pipe laterals and connect landowners, so that ultimately the goal is the landowner can get, more reliable access to pressurized water delivered to their farms.
And all our programs through the USDA NRCS, they're all voluntary conservation programs. Our financial incentives, they're amazing, but there's still, some of these projects are really, really expensive, and the cost gap is really, really big. And so we work together hand in hand with our energy conservation partners and the county partners, state government, all the partners in the area. We work hand in hand to make these projects come together and work for the landowners that we work with.
So this last summer, we were able to install a center pivot through NRCS. It's just an enormous change. Open ditches got converted to underground pipe. We can get around the property more easily. It's fewer mosquitoes and it's more water, it's more efficient. It's probably a 20th of the amount of labor that we used, and the yield is exponentially higher. I would say to the tune of 75 to 80% in terms of grass production. I mean, it's an absolute game changer. We couldn't have done any of it without NRCS because we didn't really have the personal funds to do it, nor the expertise to design it or anything else.
If we were to try and tackle the Juniper all on our own, there's no way a person ever could. You'd be out of business the first year with how much money it would take to tackle it alone. So that's where, reaching out and partnering with local organizations has been huge.
One of the main programs that we have in Lake County is the Sage Grouse Initiative, which includes a lot of juniper removal. Sage grouse don't like the junipers because they provide perches for raptors. So when junipers move into the sagebrush steppe, the sage grouse lose habitat. With the sage grouse program that Tom is enrolled in, he's not only helping out the sage grouse habitat, he's also increasing his forage availability for his cattle. And what they always say, what's good for the bird is good for the herd. So there's many different outcomes and great outcomes with the SGI program, not just protecting the sage grouse. We just have such a greater impact when we can all work together.
A lot of times I might only have so much money to do one thing, but I can talk to NRCS and they have money for it. And so we can piecemeal those two funding opportunities together to really cover a larger piece of the landscape.
But just in the short amount of time that we've been involved with different groups like the NRCS on the juniper removal, it's been pretty encouraging to see the change in the landscape. Some springs have seemed to strengthen. A lot of feed has come back because of that. I'm really optimistic that we'll continue to see more and more progress made between cattle, wildlife, and everything else benefiting. We really appreciate the partnership and the opportunities that the NRCS, along with other organizations, have opened up that, financially private landowners couldn't do on their own.
We're trying to set up our private landowners for long-term stewardship success in doing the heavy lifting, doing that thinning work that needs to get done, the very labor-intensive work, the very expensive work, so then hopefully in the future they can continue the maintenance of that forest system that they're steward of. So these initiatives together, these joint initiatives are getting us there. We're moving the needle closer to a more safer forest for the community and for the landscape.
As much as we like to say that we're cattle ranchers, our bigger job is being stewards of the land. It doesn't have to be a one species based approach. We can go at it that what is good for the cow can also be good for wildlife, upland birds, and everything else. And it helps when the whole community is involved, from landowners to government agencies and everything in between.
Each organization brings a really unique set of skills, and together we're stronger to get this work done on a landscape scale. That's the importance of that collaborative engagement with partners, with landowners, with federal land managers, with tribes, with non-government organizations that do ecosystem resilience work. We're very successful because we do leverage each other's skills and abilities. And we scale up this work as a team.